9/11, the USS Liberty, and the Rothschild family. We discussed with a man named Jeb all of these topics. Jeb was given the opportunity to go to a Turning Point USA event and ask Glenn Beck live a question from the stage as to why we're supporting this country in the Middle East, Israel. Why do we seem to support them implicitly? Why does the narrative of October 7th still have so many plot holes in it? And is our country, specifically the younger generation, starting to shift its tune on our undying support for Israel?
Israel has an overwhelming lobby over the United States government, and we have unconditionally supported them. We have fought their wars in the Middle East. Bibi Netanyahu came to our Congress in the 90s, told us a list of countries that we need to take out. Some were Syria, Iraq, Iran, Libya, etc. Through those wars, we have lost trillions of dollars. We have lost American servicemen. Charlie was starting to notice about the Israel lobby.
Glenn gets asked one question about the Israel lobby, and then makes everyone stop, and then when a guy says, is it Israel first or America first? He said, I am an American first, which is not the answer.
AIPAC controls, Democrat, Republican Party, and not enough people talk about it. My generation is starting to wake up to it. We aren't brainwashed by, the mass media.
Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly. If they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
So could you hear that, Jeb? I don't even know if you could hear the clip.
I couldn't hear the clip, no sir.
Well, this is the man who was at that event that asked that question of Glenn Beck. This is Mr. Jeb. Jeb, how you doing, friend? Thank you for being here.
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be on here.
Well, I'm happy to not be Glenn Beck, so I feel like you're not going to gotcha me right here on my show. And if you do, hopefully I'm a little better prepped. But, dude, tell me about that moment. So, for those that are unaware, it was in October, right, that you
Yes,
had
sir.
gone to a TPUSA event, specifically got in line for one of the live Q&A opportunities, and you didn't hold back. In fact, I've watched the full clip. That was just kind of cutting it up a little bit. You bring up the USS Liberty. You talk about our undying support for another country while our economy seems to kind of be struggling. Walk me through the prep for this, brother. Did you know you were going to ask that question? Did you know you were getting in line? Were you only there at this event to do that?
Well, I originally really wanted to go. I was originally planning to go to the Charlie Kirk event that was planned there, but obviously it's a tragedy what happened to Charlie Kirk. Then I was like, who's Glenn Beck? I really didn't know the dude. I wasn't even planning on going to the event earlier in the day, but a lot of my buddies were going like, Jeb, you know about this stuff. Maybe you should ask a question. I'll be like, okay, sure. I guess I should ask a question. So I went there. No idea what I was going to ask, and I really thought about it when I was sitting down. I've been studying this stuff for probably the past 2-3 years, and I just went in there. I was pretty nervous, to be honest with you, and I asked Glenn Beck that question. I was like, why are we supporting Israel? Why do we have this undying support for Israel when they have got our troops in foreign wars? They are lobbying everyone in our government, Democrats and Republicans, and the USS Liberty, which they don't teach that in school. And Glenn Beck, I actually had to lie my way into asking the question. So I told the
Wait, you had
TPUSA
to lie to get
I had
in?
to lie my way in asking the question. I told the TPUSA people, I was like, because Glenn Beck had 9 points. I don't know if you watched the whole event, but he was talking about 9 different points, and one of the points was question everything. And I was like, I told the TPUSA person. So I have a question for Glenn. I'm really concerned that a lot of America's youth is questioning our support for Israel. So I would like Glenn Beck to reaffirm that.
So you thought you made them think that you were going to be pro, and then you came in questioning it.
She was like, that's
Clever.
a really great question.
Clever. Okay. Okay, so let me backtrack it. Again, you said you even that morning were considering not going?
Yes, sir. I only got a ticket for the actual Glenn Beck event probably 45 minutes prior to the event.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So again, you were going to see Charlie. Were you planning to ask a similar question?
I was probably going to ask Charlie the same exact thing, but obviously
Okay.
Charlie was starting to notice about the Israel lobby only 2 days before he got killed.
So let's do this. What have you noticed? You said you started doing research 2-3 years ago. You're only 19 years old. So
Yes, sir.
You've lived through the 2008 housing market crash. You were told to go home during your middle school, early high school.
Middle school, it was seventh grade during
Good
quarantine.
Lord. So you have COVID strike you seventh grade. You have no clue what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
Then the next 3 years are riddled by masks, and you wake back up in reality, and our political landscape's insane. And you decide to start looking into this Middle Eastern country, Israel. Why did you do that?
Well, it probably started in, I want to say 2020, 2021. I was looking into like seed oils. I was like, you know what? Because I really liked working out. I was like, well, seed oils are really bad for you. And they tell you kind of seed oils are good for you. And I was like, well, what else are they lying about? And I've always kind of enjoyed history. I know quite a bit about American history, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, stuff like that, Vietnam. Always had deep fascination for history, philosophy, anthropology, stuff like that. Oh, I just kind of, honestly, I went down the rabbit hole, and it all adds up. It all makes sense. The problems we're having today, it's from Zionism and globalism and really that secular country in the Middle East.
Break that down. Because somebody listening to this can be like, okay, all the problems caused by Israel. This is just the Jews are the problem everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So break that down for me a little bit more, maybe analytically. Are there 2 or 3 events that your brain pops to say, when I learned about this, I was further pulled into the party of understanding that our problems might be caused by this other country?
Well, one of the biggest things to me I can think of is 9/11. Like, there was no radical Islam in the West before 9/11 happened. And that is very suspicious to me. Obviously, there was some, people can always make an argument. There was some, but it wasn't to the extent and how the media talks about it today. That kind of woke me up, and how we have taken out these countries that Bibi Netanyahu literally came to our government and told us that we need to take out. Iraq, Syria, Libya, Lebanon, Iran, etc. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, in fact, I want to play that clip here. I'll play it in the edited version, so you don't have to sit in muted version. I'll play that right now. It's clear Bibi's been talking about for decades a nuclear power arising out of Iran and their neighbors. I think since 1995 was the earliest clip we have of him. But this is a guy, Bibi, who was raised in his later high school life right outside of Philadelphia, very tight with the Reagans, the Carters, the Clintons, the Bushes. I mean, every political figure you can imagine he's been connected
Democrats and Republicans.
Democrats and Republicans. And from what you're saying is one of the eye-openers was the fact that he has been lining up the countries that we need to go after, and they just happen to be the countries that have all of the terrorists, that have all of the brown people that we need to take out.
Yep.
It just happens to line up that way,
Yeah, it happens.
right?
It's weird. It's just a coincidence.
It's just a coincidence. So what's another event? So you said 9/11. We're going to go back to that because I want to get into specifics. We can talk about passports and training and the actual 9/11 commission that came out. But what's another, hey, something weird's going on moment?
I would say the USS Liberty. I think if any other country attacked the U.S. government, especially during the Cold War, there would be some sort of retaliation. So I think that they wanted to sink that ship and drag us into their war with Egypt.
Sean, can you bring up the USS Liberty Wikipedia real quick? I want to read off what happened there for everybody to. All right, let me read this off. So it says the USS Liberty incident was an attack on United States Naval Fleet technical research ship. It says it was a spy ship. The USS Liberty by Israeli Air Force jet fighters, aircrafts, and Israeli Navy. It said that, can we zoom that in just a little? There we go. Now my old eyes can read. It says they were hit by torpedoes and combined air and sea attacks on June 8th, 1967 during the 6-day war, killing 34 American crew members, officers, seamen, 2 Marines, and 1 civilian. It wounded 171 crew members and severely damaged the ship. At the time, the ship was in international waters north of the Sinai Peninsula, about 25 and a half international miles or nautical miles northwest of Arish. Why does this get brushed under the rug, Jeb? Why is that a story a lot of people haven't heard?
Because there's always this narrative that Israel's our greatest ally and we need to support them unconditionally. And it's all because Israel controls our government through AIPAC. I mean, if Bibi Netanyahu comes to our government, he's the only one that John Fetterman, I don't know if you're familiar with him, senator from Pennsylvania. He's always known for wearing shorts and sweatshirts. He's the only one that will he'll only put a suit on for Bibi Netanyahu. He won't put it on for the president. He won't put it on for any other event. I mean, it just really shows who controls our government. So if they talked about the USS Liberty, it would destroy this narrative that Israel's our greatest ally. Because people are like, well, if it's our greatest ally, why are they attacking why did they attack a US ship with the United States flag? Like, it was known that it was a United States ship.
Well, what if it was an accident?
Well,
is there any realm where it could have been an
I'm
accident?
pretty sure they came back. I think they striked it once, and then they either sent the boats in or they came back with the planes.
I believe it was torpedo and then planes. Yes, but it's you're right. There's not a lot of room for it, but that's going to be the argument. Is that things happen, friendly fire. This isn't the first friendly fire experience that's happened. You bring up 9/11, dude. You bring up 9/11 to a boomer, and you start questioning the narrative.
They freak out.
Everything else you say does not matter. Like, you're nuts. You're crazy.
You're nuts to them.
You're out of your mind. You're whacked out. I want to come back to 9/11. I think we could spend 30 minutes on that.
Yeah.
What do you think? Go ahead.
I think the reason that boomers never look into this stuff and never really read into it is because life was so good for them when they were younger.
Yes,
and there was no reason to necessarily question the narrative because everything was kind of working out for them. I mean, they could come out of high school, buy a house, get a good job, and just live the American dream. But that isn't affordable for most Americans now. Now it's everyone has to go to college, both parents have to work full time, and maybe you'll own a house by the time you're 40. So there's a reason to question things.
I think you're spot on about that. I think you're that point right there, because when you think about a boomer's lifestyle, right? You're talking about somebody who, like you said, on one job could support a family, on one job could take the family out for a vacation once a year. You could raise two kids. You could have a dog and a picket fence, and you didn't have to take out a loan to get the fence. You didn't have anything that was holding you back from getting groceries, because now a grocery cart's $350 to $400 a cart. I think you're a spot on with that, because when you're looking at a world that might be corrupt, and by the way, a lot of boomers believe politicians lie, the FBI and the CIA is corrupt, they probably meddled with JFK and MLK. There's a lot that believe that. And then at the same token, they'll be like, oh, well, our politicians always lie. Well, that's just always the way it's been. What a bitchy take.
Yeah.
What a terrible take. You're just cool with being lied to. And it seems like that is a huge core to the belief system of many boomers, is that Israel is our number one ally. Israel's a number one benefactor for us. We need them. You're a history buff. You've dug into it. Like, have you found anything that says, man, I'm so glad we're allied with Israel because we get X? Is there anything that exists?
No, honestly. No, I think since that we've been blessing Israel, I think United States has been on somewhat of a decline.
When would you say that is? Since the 60s, 70s?
I would say really start supporting them because, Russia was supporting the Arab countries. So, yeah, I'd probably say 60s, 70s was when we really started supporting Israel. And also when
the Yom Kippur War in 74 when we came in support. Yeah.
That's when the neocons kind of infiltrated the U.S. government after Israel started its wars against Arab countries, because a lot of the people in Russia, Irving Kristol's one of them, came to the U.S. because they were really aggravated that Russia was supporting these Arab countries instead of the Zionist state. I don't know if you knew that.
No, go on.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much how the neoconservative movement started in the U.S. in this first place. And the neoconservative movement isn't really conserving anything. They purely just want,
money.
Foreign wars with people, and just kind of control over the other people's governments.
And the neocon, because when people hear neocon, a lot of people think of Reagan.
Reagan or Bush.
Removal from the gold standard, NAFTA. We think about a lot of these economic policies.
I saw your video you made the other day about how ever since 1971 we've been on an collapse, and I really agree with that. I've been saying that. I've been researching into that. Well, getting off the gold standard was one of the worst things that ever happened to our country, I think.
Yes, and there's a lot of people. Okay, so this is one of the first economic, I guess, misnomers that I really dove my nose into, and I wanted to figure out, okay, what side do I sit on? Because when you get into the gold standard and the Nixon shock of 71. And stop me if I'm boring you. You get into two sides of the debate. It's either A, I guess three. There's either A, this is the worst thing that ever happened to our economy and it was the start of the downfall. Or number two, the gold standard is just like a red herring. Like it's not a big deal. And then there's a third that just don't simply care about it. I think that it's both.
Okay.
All right. I don't think that a gold standard by itself causes us, or the removal from that gold standard causes us to inflate. It doesn't cause our dollar to weaken, not having some form of base to our currency. Because there is a lot of countries, even at that time in the 70s and up till today, that do not have a backing to their currency. But the two things that make me believe the other angle is more true than not is the fact that A, we're the world reserve currency. So there's a higher level of discipline that we need to have. And number two, it wasn't the fact that we removed ourselves from the gold that allowed our dollar to inflate. It was the fact that we no longer had the discipline that required us to only print a similar amount of money than which we had in physical gold backing. And removal from that discipline, we no longer had to think about it. We can be like, wait, we can just print. We can just go. We can just do this now. That's where I think we have that disconnect in the dollar. And of course, it was the same time where we had labor issues changing. We had the Fair Housing Act coming out. We went through stagflation through the 70s, super high rates through the end of the 70s, and then 80s, Reagan comes in and saves the day. The most famous neocon with Milton Friedman and Peter G. Peterson to enact trickle-down economics. But back to the topic, I want to move back to the original conversation. So you said the USS Liberty was a big event. You said 9/11 was another one. What's number three?
I would probably say the whole idea of globalization. I think that has harmed the West incredibly. Well, I think kind of all these left-wing and completely liberal ideas, mass immigration into the Western world, I don't think has helped Western countries whatsoever. But people need to look at the root cause of why is this mass immigration coming into our countries, and that would be the fact that we go into the Middle East and we blow up these people's homes, and they have no place to go, and we can't necessarily blame the immigrants because they simply are seeking for a better life, and because their homes and their places that they originally lived have been destroyed. And also, I would say October 7th, because how did Israel, a country the size of New Jersey, I think it was like 6 to 7 hours to respond, and they didn't. You know what I mean? Like that, just like it had to be a false flag attack because the Mossad is probably the most advanced intelligence agency on the world. And how they not see these people coming on paragliders and through tunnels?
Good point.
There's probably like two more things.
No, that's a good point. October 7th is another one.
Just seems fishy.
If you doubt, it does. And if you doubt the narrative, you're immediately labeled crazy, anti-patriotic, anti-Semitic. I think on the October 7th thing that gets me the absolute most is that we know Bibi was funding Hamas through Qatar. Yep. We know
that.
Billions, not millions, billions of dollars. Because they don't have at the Gaza Strip, they don't have an airport. They don't have docks. They literally can't even walk across country lines. So how are they getting these bombs? How are they getting this weaponry? How are they building this elaborate tunnel system when there's literally not an airport? It's getting brought to them. Who's bringing it to them? The very person they're fighting. I might be dating myself. You ever watch Powerpuff Girls?
When I was younger.
Okay, listen. So there's this episode, right? Catch me. There's this episode of the Powerpuff Girls where there's this other guy, this other boy, their age, I guess kindergarten, that comes in. Yeah, they're all kindergartners just saving the day. Comes in and starts saving the day before the Powerpuff Girls. All right? Saves the day before them. It happens like 2, 3, 4 times where something were to happen. They arrive on the scene, and this guy's already solved the problem. The day's already been saved. No need for the Powerpuff Girls. And the sentiment starts shifting amongst Townsville. They're like, oh, we love this guy. Look at him. He's faster than even the Powerpuff Girls were. And then as you get in like midway, 20 minutes of the 30-minute episode, there's this scene, and that's why I call Bibi a dog kicker now, where the kid, who everyone loved because he was getting there faster, solving the crimes quicker, he saved this dog from getting hit by a car. His car was running toward the dog. Dog was scared. And then he jumps in front, grabs the dog right at the last second. Great save. But they saw the fact that he kicked the dog into the road.
Yeah.
He was the one that kicked the dog into the road to save the dog.
Yeah.
Bibi Netanyahu's a dog kicker.
Yeah.
He's creating the problem and then solving it.
Yeah.
And basically creating this hero arc, it seems, out of destroying terrorists when in all actuality, it's just a genocide. It's millions of people
100%.
actually literally dying, not millions, hundreds of thousands of people dying, being displaced, millions being taken away from their home. And I think where Americans get, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, just young Americans are tired of our dollar going overseas.
Yeah,
At
we are,
minimum.
because there's plenty of problems at home that our dollars can be put to better use.
Agreed. Do you think that this is a new problem or one that's simply just getting noticed now?
I think it's one that's simply getting noticed now because things are not good at home. It's kind of like the thing I said about the boomers earlier. Things are not good at home, so people start looking for, because if people are content, they are just going to be content with life. They're not going to worry about stuff. But if there's problems, they're going to look, why is the problem happening? What is causing the problem? What is subsidizing the problem? Stuff like that.
Do you believe that Israel formed in the 40s by the Rothschild family was indeed formed by and for the Rothschild family?
I don't know if it's specifically for the Rothschild family. I see Israel as a state, an ethno-state, where Zionists can pretty much meddle with other countries' politics around the world, and they always have that pretty much base of operations, and that being Israel.
Why? When and why did that start?
Well,
That's where my brain gets into the Rothschild, but I'm curious what you think. Why did that start?
well, it started with the Balfour Declaration, if you're familiar with that. And it got accelerated after the Holocaust, and everyone felt bad for the Jews because the Holocaust happened, And people just kind of turned a blind eye to Zionism and their ideas that wanted pretty much globalize the world and destroy these countries. And the idea that people can, have a sense of nationalism for their own countries. And I like to say that they try to socially engineer society against what naturally would happen.
And what do you think naturally would have happened without that infiltration by Israel?
Well, I think that the Arabs would be in Arab countries, the English would be in England, Germans in Germany. They try to put this whole philosophy that Israel will literally have an ethno-state where it's just Israelis and Jews, but they can pretty much encourage immigration across the Western world. I think degenerate politics, such as, they'll like, for example, like they'll encourage like abortions in Europe and then be like, well, we have low birth rates, so we need to import immigrants. And those immigrants, it's like a win-win for Israel, because then those immigrants leave the Middle East because they want to take over the Middle East. Israel does. And it creates this cycle of just like, this is the metaphor, but just shitty policies. That's how I see it.
You mentioned something in there. Do you think that the end goal is land, more land, greater Israel?
I think greater Israel. It's on the IDF patches.
It is. Jeb, but that just leaves me and probably many people that listen to this that, let me break it down. Like we have October 7th, where there was a whack response time, rumors of a stand down order, and we have the very man leading that country charged with funding the very terrorist organization he claims is causing war. It's based around a book I believe in, but a book that says that it's their land, that's based on a character named Jesus who never said bomb your neighbor for their land.
Yeah.
Never said it once. And if we were to not support them, I think that there's even with all these markers of yellow flags, we'll call it, that if we don't support them, we're not good Christians.
Yeah, well, that narrative has been pushed through the Schofield Bible, which is a Bible that's created and funded by the Rothschilds. It infiltrates a lot of these evangelical churches that create the narrative that the state of Israel in today's modern form is a biblical prophecy and that Jews are God's chosen people. So they manipulated a lot of Christians here. Particularly, I noticed it being evangelicals and Baptists, not so much Catholics or people up north. And it creates this narrative that if we don't support Israel, we will be cursed. Like if you don't bless Israel, you will be cursed. Stuff like that.
You mentioned curses and blessings, so I want to pull out my old Bible real quick. You familiar with Revelations 3:9?
No, sir, I'm not.
Let me read it real quick as soon as I can find it. So I'll read 8 as well. It says, I know your works. Behold, I have set before you an open door, which no one is able to shut. I know that you have but little power, and yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. But, behold, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan, who say that they are Jews, but are not, but lie. Behold, I will make them come and bow before your feet, and they will learn that I have loved you first. Do you consider what's going on in the Israeli government to be the definition of just that, the synagogue of Satan?
I completely agree with you. 100%. Wholeheartedly.
I think so too, and you mentioned it twice, so I'm going to go back to it. The Rothschilds bought the land from the British. The Rothschilds funded the immigration effort from Europe, got people in there pre-World War II. The Rothschilds funded I think it was called the Knet Building, their Supreme Court, basically their Supreme Court. I forget the actual name that they call their building, but funded their Supreme Court, funded the land effort, of course, orchestrated the land transition from the British. And I don't see how it's not the Rothschild family at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't.
I would say yes, it is the Rothschild, but I wouldn't say it's only the Rothschilds.
Correct, because the Rothschild families weren't even the ones that created the term Zionism. Zionism coming around in the late
That
1800s.
was what's his name? Ellie something, right?
I don't
Correct?
remember his name, but I know
Yeah.
he's like 1890s,
Yeah, that sounds right.
1887, somewhere in that range. And he wasn't a God-fearing man.
Yeah.
He wasn't a God-fearing man. So when we look at the fact that let's just look at Judeo-Christian values,
Yeah.
right? We can get a laugh about that. Well, what's your take on that? Just before I give mine, Christians as a whole are taught to follow the Americanized variation of Christianity that is Judeo-Christian values.
Mhm.
But I think many, especially in the younger generation, see kind of the oxymoron of those two words being beside each other.
Yeah, I don't think you can have Judeo-Christian values. I think it's an oxymoron. They can't they don't go together whatsoever.
What are some of the values that you think don't correlate?
Well, Jews, Talmudic Jews anyways, they see non-Jews, Gentiles as goyim, which pretty much just means cattle. So they put them on like almost like a second or third class citizen to themselves. That doesn't seem Christian.
And a Talmudic Jew, just so I'm 100%, is that going to be someone who follows the Orthodox variation of Judaism or somebody who is a rabbinic Jew?
I don't know, to be completely honest with you.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying if you don't know, you don't know. That's fine. The Talmud, from what I thought it was only followed by rabbinic Jews.
Okay.
And rabbinic Jews came from, we have the canon event, obviously, that happened with the Bible, I think was in around 300 AD. In or around that time, there was also a Babylonian Jewish culmination happening where because when Jesus died, there were two different sects. We had the actual Pharisees and then the Sadducees. The Pharisees would dissipate after the fall of Jerusalem in 72, and they would become rabbinic Jews. They would actually be the ones that wrote the Talmud. The Talmud was an oral dictation, like an oral interpretation
Of rabbis, right?
Different rabbis on their takes of the Torah. And that was the first 5 books of the Bible. But you're right. In the Talmud, it says that Jesus is down in hell burning in excrement and that all you have to kill them. Like, yeah, that's all in there. And I think that many people, when they're brought to that fact, they're a little concerned that Judeo-Christians are half and half with a book that seemingly says Christ is burning in hell. So how can you be Christian and Judeo? It doesn't seem to match up.
They simply just want to manipulate the masses, especially here in the U.S. For example, there's 7 million Jews in the U.S. and there's 7 million Jews in Israel. I mean, it's almost to me like the U.S. it's a second Israel. It's just a big Israel, and they can kind of just use us and pretty much do whatever they want. Like, it's just like someone that protects them. You know what I mean? They can just kind of do whatever they want. That's how I see it.
So let me ask you this then, Jeb. In researching and looking into, because you've already mentioned things like the Yom Kippur War and the USS Liberty and what's going on actively, as we just saw 2 days ago, 2 Palestinian citizens just eliminated for absolutely zero reason. And that's only 3 weeks after we saw the female attorney come out and leak the RAPE, the mass RAPE that happened, sexual assault that happened live on camera. And 2 weeks ago, Benjamin Netanyahu was reamed by one of his very lawmakers for causing October 7th. So my question is to you, are we seeing the unraveling of this relationship, or is this something that's going to be going on for decades?
Well, I really hope we see the unraveling of the relationship, but I really think that there's hope. I think once Gen Z gets in the power, it will just kind of fix itself almost, because I think the boomers are kind of a lost cause. I hate to say it. I hope that we don't have a civil war or something until then. I hope that in 10, 15, 20 years, Gen Z just kind of takes over the government. And we don't have this idea that we need unconditional support for Israel. And hopefully we separate ourselves from each other. But then what happens once we separate ourselves from Israel? We have to ask that question. What is Israel going to do? I don't think we'll see a separation for the next 3 to 4 years. I mean, I think Trump's administration is going to stay beside Israel. I think that he is too infiltrated to separate from Israel. But I think in 10 to 20 years, we will see separation, but hopefully there isn't some sort of civil war until then.
So you think that the current administration is currently indebted to Israel, indebted to their leadership?
I do think so, but I think if a Democrat was in power, it'd be the same exact thing.
Okay. So two sides of the same bird type.
Yep. Yeah, two
Two
sides of the same
wings of
coin.
Okay, then what's the solution?
Well, I would like to say that 70% of Gen Z kind of thinks pretty much how I do. I would say it's even more among young men because they see society and they see how much nihilism there is in the world and how much stuff is going wrong, and they also see something worth saving. Um, and I think that they will try to save that. And I really do think in 10 to 20 years, things will just kind of figure out themselves. Like, yeah, this is kind of hard times, but I don't think it's going to be something crazy. I really don't hope we have a civil war, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we do.
Or what that civil war looks like?
Yeah. Do you want me to get into that? I kind of have a little
Please,
theory.
yeah, like because
Yeah.
I imagine in the modern day 2025 to 2030, like it's much different from what we're looking at, the civil war that we had in our history, or
Yeah.
or the uprising that happened in the 40s in China. Like what do you think it looks like? Are we going to look
Well,
like Nepal?
one thing I'm kind of worried about, Trump's approval rating is very low. Me personally, I voted for Trump in 2020. I mean 2024. That's the first time I could vote. And I'm very dissatisfied with Trump's current administration. I think millions of people are. But Trump has done some stuff that really the Democrats will be aggravated about. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Democrat win in 2028. So I think that the Democrats are going to almost want some sort of vengeance. They've seen Trump go into ICE and, get people which they don't like. They've seen Trump send the National Guard into cities, break up these Antifa rallies and stuff. So I think, slow down immigration. Trump just stopped. He said he's going to stop third world immigration, which I personally hope he does. But I wouldn't be surprised if a Democrat gets in power, and it's almost like they want vengeance for what Trump did. So they're going to open the border. They're pretty much going to go against purely conservative values, and that's going to rile a lot of people up. And the conservatives are the ones with all the guns. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of how a civil war here in America starts.
Well, I think you're only laying out what's been happening since the 80s, really since we came out of stagflation. The 80s was this reaction to our mishandling of the economy, and they reacted pretty aggressively with trickle-down economics. Then we get maybe the naiveness that was going to continue on. And then we have the Democratic side that comes in, and we have NAFTA, we have the removal of Glass-Steagall. Then you get Bush in, and it just seems like it's consistently this aggressive, you were in office for 4 to 8 years and did this, we're going to do it this way.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
Bush gets done and we go through the 2008 housing market crash, which allows Obama to come in and lay out all these new regulations. And that's where we get things like Citizens United. I agree with you, but I guess where I don't want to agree with you is that the Democratic side is just going to come in and undo some of the good that's been done, and simultaneously create more issues for a future Republican regime to come in and fix.
I wouldn't be surprised because I see it as Israel literally just tries to put two groups of people against each other. It's always black versus white, Muslim versus Christian, left versus right. When really, in reality, those people agree with a lot more with each other than the people that are controlling them.
Absolutely. And I think it's, for example, the borders. I think almost everybody can agree that we do not want criminals, people that murder, to come over into our country. I don't think anybody would say, I want that. I don't think anybody, if it were true, because in the real estate industry, I just don't find evidence for it. If illegal immigrants were coming in and buying all the homes, like we wouldn't want that. If BlackRock was really buying all the homes, we wouldn't want that. You mentioned earlier, Gen Z, 10, 15 years, things will change. What about for the people that don't want to wait that long? Like, do you really think this current scenario we're living in right now, with affordability being where it's at,
You're right.
With this conspiracy world that we know about, like we're going to get back to things like 9/11. Like when you talk about stuff like that, being false, just not being what we were told it was, you're talking about something so structurally intact for most Americans, is that we fought back against the terrorists. We fought back and replied to one of the greatest attacks on our soil with vengeance that only the American military could offer. And it was a patriotic moment, Jeb. Like, I was
Yeah.
only in kindergarten when 9/11 happened, but I remember the moment that second plane hit and the moment my mom started crying and the moment I was like, oh my God, are we all going to die? Like the world was weird.
Hmm.
I understand the boomers not wanting to have their eyes open to that.
Yeah.
Because, Jeb, if we're talking about things like the 9/11 conspiracy being legit, like it really wasn't, Islamic terrorists, and maybe it
Hmm.
was, Israeli involvement, you're talking about the entire government being completely corrupted. You're talking about it all just being a big made up lie. Like,
Yeah.
do you think about that? That messes with me.
It does. It does. Because I always have this idea that it's like it's just gonna get saved one day. But I hope it does. I really hope it does. And I think when Gen Z gets into power, it will. But from how it looks right now, it's our whole government's compromised. I mean, I guess there's Thomas Massey on the Republican side that goes against the Israel lobby, but MTG just resigned. I think that she was either pressured or threatened.
Well, she even
So
said, like, in a reply,
yeah,
I was looking through some of her replies on Twitter of like, did you want me to stick around and get shot?
yeah,
She was afraid for her life.
yeah. Charlie Kirk started questioning it. He gets shot. So yeah, I think that they literally control everything. The media, the banks, the government. I mean, it's all just this one narrative. And if you go outside that narrative, it's not good for you, especially if you get popularity.
Yeah. And you're saying the masses through, because Gen Z's chronically online, a lot of us are. We can look things up. We have things like AI now that can look things up. We're communicating with one another.
One thing though, I would actually like to hear your take on it.
Please.
Why has social media become so liberalized over the past, I would say even like 5 years ago, you couldn't talk about Israel. So why do you think, because I know that we know they control a lot of the media sources. Why do you think that is that you can talk about it now on social media? Like, why are they letting that happen? Have you ever thought about that?
I don't know if it's liberalize is the word I would use.
Well, I would say like liberalize in the aspect, like not like liberal, but like liberalize in meaning like it's freer. Anyone can
Like
talk about
liberty.
anything.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I don't know if it's necessarily freer. I think that there's
Really?
a little bit of, I think it's actually less free in a lot of
Okay.
ways. But I also think that there's this thought process of who cares if everyone knows about it?
Okay.
As long as a person like a Charlie Kirk or a president or a government official isn't outright saying it, they're the type of people that could sway the boomers.
Mhm.
Like, let TikTok just do its thing. Like,
Yeah.
let them yell about it. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
I think is a part of it. I think Elon Musk's purchase of X and that being as free-ish of a platform as possible, I think that helps.
Mhm.
But I think at the same exact time, we see that they know that that's the battlefront. I mean, we've seen Bibi Netanyahu several times now reference TikTok and creators as weapons.
Yeah.
The weapon of not just propaganda, but just the messaging and the overall sentiment. You're right. In the last just 3 years, it's changed greatly
Mhm.
towards Israel. I don't think that that's something anybody saw coming. And I think
Yeah.
if they did, that they would have done something. But I think the cat's out of the bag now. And here's my counter argument. I think it's become more free, mainly because they accidentally let it happen. I don't think they thought
Okay.
podcasts were going to become what they were. I didn't think they thought mass media was going to lose control. I think at
Okay,
this
yeah.
point, if they were to say, hey, if you use the word Israel, Epstein, blah, 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 we're just going to take you down, I think that would almost kind of prove our points.
Yeah.
So they,
Yeah, it would. It would.
so
I
they
see
maybe
what
almost don't because they don't want it to be that way. But
Yeah.
then we have at a 50 states, one Israel meeting where they say, we're actively working in the algorithms to make sure anti-Semitic content isn't making its way out there and anti-Israel content isn't
Yeah.
making its way out there. So wait, you're saying as the Israel lobby, you have control over the media?
Yeah.
Like, let's
Yeah.
rewind the tape real quick.
Yeah.
You just said you're curtailing the media, all while saying you don't control the media. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So
You-
my thought is social media has been amazing and terrible for our generation at the same time.
Yes.
It's
Agreed.
forced us into doom scroll loops. It's forced people that think very, very blue to get very, 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 very blue. It's forced people that think red to think very, 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 very red. And ultimately, if we just meet in the middle in some
If
gray,
we just meet in the middle and, I think if the left kind of I think the left and the right could come together. If the left gets rid of this idea that just mass immigration, because mass immigration only helps the billionaires. Like once they can understand that concept, okay. So if we could get the left to give up on the idea of mass immigration, and we could get the right to almost give up on this idea of the completely free market libertarian capitalism, and maybe do something like, I don't know, I think we could have some sort of subsidized healthcare in the US. And if we get the right kind of to stop just being full on just hate everyone equally, because that's
Yeah.
kind of an idea on the right. It's like hate everyone equally. It's like, oh, well, hate the Zionists, but also hate the Muslims. You know what I mean? If they kind of just stop doing that, I think we could get the right and the left together. And a lot of the people that control the world would be very unhappy with that.
I can agree with that because the right absolutely are the party of the rich, the wealthy, the corporate, the neoliberal.
Well, I would say the left as well.
To an
A lot
extent,
of-
yeah, they all feed the billionaires.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, they all feed the billionaires. I guess when I say that, I mean more the supporters. The supporters, for the most part of
Openly
the Red
support, yeah.
Party, love that. And I've seen many of people who make $50K a year support the billionaires. I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And on the blue side, there's a mix on either. Because I think you could be MAGA, you can be Republican, and you can be conservative. And I think there's different like mixtures of what you believe in that. And then on the liberal side, there's so many different sects too. I think that on the blue side, there's just a lot of people who are fed up with just straight up capitalism without any regulation, except for when billionaires start losing money. Then the regulations come in. Then the big bailouts come in.
Yeah.
But then on the blue side too, I think there are a lot of unrealistic things that are asked for because we need money to fund everything.
We need money to fund things, and it's like I understand the leftist idea of wanting to help everybody, and I actually respect that. But sometimes you can't necessarily help everyone at the cost of your own country and the people that have lived there.
Sure, but couldn't we help more people if we weren't sending our money to
100%.
Venezuela?
Yeah, 100%. And there's a lot of dumb programs here in the U.S. Like I thought Doge was awesome when Trump did that, but obviously it's shut down now.
No, it's still going. Doge is still going.
It is? Okay, it is? Okay, I saw someone that was shut
It's like
down.
214 billion that they've tried. Elon's just not running it anymore.
Okay, I got you.
It's still going. They still haven't eclipsed their multi-trillion dollars worth of savings they want to hit. They'll probably get in like the 400 billion range, which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But rewinding into the Israel side of things, I think just a lot of people can look at the $170 billion plus we've sent them. We can look at the state funds that we send them. Heck, there's even a company in Frederica, Delaware that helps create the bulletproof vests that are used by the IDF.
Really?
I'm going to do a video on it soon. There's so many line items you could walk through, but I want to walk back to the other one, 9/11, because that is, to me,
That's what got us involved.
to a large extent it did, and it got us in blood with them. What is the number one piece of evidence that you think shows that this was not what we were told it was, that 9/11 was not what the commission report said? I mean, Tucker Carlson just did a great series. It was, I think, 5 episodes. It was really locked in on firefighters' wives and what they thought, and different chiefs and what they thought, and live shoots that show a bomb went off. This wasn't an attack. You can see it fell straight into itself. I mean, World Trade 7, like, what is the piece of evidence you say, look, I know steel doesn't burn at that temperature, but if you just understood this, you get it.
There's a few things. And I wouldn't say 9/11 is my biggest topic I'm well versed on, but I would say building number 7, the whole Pentagon thing seems pretty sketch to me.
Yeah.
How they found passports, but not the black box. And just overall the building collapsing kind of how it did. That doesn't really seem realistic from an airplane.
No, dude, I'm so glad you brought up the Pentagon. That's the weirdest one for me.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Okay, so can I tell you a quick story? I'm a nerd. Yeah. So I was driving back from, I'd flown out to Dallas, and I went back in through DC. And so I've twice now done this, where I drove specifically past the Pentagon because I just want to look at all of the buildings around them, because there's 2 specific buildings that have cameras that were on live and running via CCTV that day that we have never seen. The only video we have is the security guard, 2 frames, extremely grainy, hitting a building that when you see it too, you realize is not a tall building.
Yeah.
Like the plane literally hit feet above the ground.
Yeah, and these guys were flying Cessnas, and I'm in aviation school right now. Like, how did I couldn't do that. I don't know how they could do that either.
And describe to me the difference between a Cessna and the 747 they were flying.
Yeah, well, a Cessna is just like it's 4 seats. It's a small high wing aircraft. I mean, you use it for private pilot training. But yeah, the 737s I think they were flying. That's like, I mean, it would be like riding a bike and then like trying to fly a plane. Like, it just, you know what I mean? That'd be very hard. And how they flew, I mean, it It's so complex. It doesn't add. It just doesn't add up at all.
Yeah, because they ran a full corkscrew. They're flying into DC. And the other thing I look at around me is the other buildings that are so much higher than the Pentagon around it. To be able to get in just over top and then perfectly hit it. And then it hits the Office of Budgeting where they just announced they were missing $2 trillion in gold. And then, dude, there's no plane. I don't know if you've seen.
Yeah, I've seen that.
There's no plane in the Pentagon. That one right there is the weirdest one for me.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Because World Trade Center 7 falling
and dancing
makes zero
Israelis
sense.
too. I don't know if you know about that.
Say again?
Dancing Israelis where they had the camera already set up. Yeah, and it's like if you talk to a boomer about this, they'll just like they just won't comprehend it. Like they just will shut down the
Dancing
conversation.
Israelis thing for someone listening is like, wait, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it was 5 Israeli men. They had their cameras set up at the World Trade Center before the planes hit, and once the planes hit, they started dancing. And someone called the cops on them, and the police tracked them down, and turns out they were Israeli citizens.
And they let them go, right?
Yeah, and I've also seen, they let them go. And I've also seen interviews where they interviewed like one Israeli person. She was like in the U.S. and she was like, "I'm so glad this happened to the U.S. so now they can understand what we're fighting against." And then like I saw the same video as like Iranian people here in the U.S. mourning the 9/11 event. Like Iran isn't like I don't understand what this whole like idea that Iran's America's greatest threat. It's like it's Israel's problem, not ours. Like Iran
I can
isn't
agree
our
with
problem.
that completely.
Yeah.
They were in a parking lot, from what I understood, and they had a van. They were masquerading as some other company, and they were brought in for questioning. They came in here weeks prior to the attack. They seemingly were only here for the attack. They knew the attack was going to happen because they were already set up for it. And yeah, of course, the celebrating aspect. And Bibi Netanyahu, I believe it was 99 that he had said something to the effect of, if we don't do something, there's going to be a major attack, something on a World Trade Center.
Yeah,
You're like, what? You just say the word World Trade Center? What? And then in 2001, after the attack, saying that the attacks of 9/11 were actually good for Israel because it brought us back to supporting. So yeah, it was for like my dad. I was always a conspiracy head growing up. Back in the day, it was like, for me, the Loch Ness Monster and his Bigfoot out there, aliens. And he always said something. Now, he is a transitioning boomer mindset. I'll say it. I love my dad, but we transitioned him. He always wanted to know why. And I think that's just a great baseline for any conversation we're having around this. Is you can talk about all these conspiracy theories and connect all these dots. Oh, there wasn't one shooter. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. And he just wanted to know why. Yeah. Why would they go through? Why would this many people shut up? Why would this many people allow this to happen? And when you start to line up the money and the gold and the connections, okay, now we got a little bit of oh my God. So on the Epstein thing, so I was watching an interview the other day. Do you know who Rob Dershowitz is?
I do not. No, sir.
Okay, so Rob Dershowitz was his former attorney.
Okay.
And represented him. Now, Dershowitz was on a Fox News interview the other day and had a little Freudian slip over the summer, where he was being asked about his representation of Epstein. And the lady said, I feel crazy asking this, but do you still represent Epstein? I don't know why she asked that, maybe to see, like, do you represent, like, his estate or something like that? But, and of course, he has brothers. Do you still represent Epstein? He said, no. In fact, I didn't even know Epstein. I was introduced to him by Miss Lady Rothschild. And, yeah, he said that. He said those very words live into a microphone. And she ended the interview in like a question and a half. I think she was kind of smacked in the face by it. And even when he said it, he started like kind of blinking and like moving like this, like maybe he didn't mean to say it. But when you talk about the why and you talk about the connections, we have a country that was founded by a family that is also the one that is setting up the legal obligations and legal protection for the world's most foremost predator. That's odd. And then for his Robert Maxwell, his father-in-law, to be so deeply connected with the Mossad and so deeply connected with Jerusalem and Israel, and to die on a boat 2 months after demanding that the Mossad pay his debts, it's all weird. Like Sean and I, my producer, we were saying earlier about the National Guard event that just happened, and people are already
really
starting to find weird pieces in it. It's just like, why is everything weird, Jeb? Why is everything
have to be weird? I don't know. It's like social media is a double-edged sword because you learn all this new information and also you can connect with people to talk about this new information, but it's like you know so much and there's only so much you can do about it because that's just the reality of it.
But is that the message? Is that there's and there's not anything you can do
No,
about it?
that's not the message whatsoever. I already think a lot of people know. How many people do you think know about Zionism, Israel, and just kind of our government's just compromised, and a lot of the West is compromised.
If I were to guess, I would say 12% of our population probably feels that way.
Really,
I'd say
I would
one
say
out of 8.
I would say it's very like last year, like even 2 years ago, the stuff I'm saying right now, all of my friends would have probably called me a conspiracy theorist, but now I'd say
Sure.
probably 70-80% of my friends think how I
Growing
think.
rapidly.
Growing
But I
rapidly.
do think that it's happening largely amongst younger
Mhm.
sects of
Yeah,
people.
because things aren't good for us. So we look for the problems, and that's why I think.
I wanna round up the conversation a little
Mhm.
bit. Do you think that there's anything that could happen or that is happening as we speak that could get the more generalized boomer to get on the same page with this thought process? Or are we just waiting, like you said, 12, 15 years down the road for a generation to die off and another to get older?
I don't think there's anything for the boomers. I mean, why would they help us? I mean, their lives are so comfortable. They're old anyways. They seem no reason to help us, to be completely frank with you. So I think it's going to be up to the younger generations. I think the boomers are a lost cause, honestly. I hate to say that, but I think that's just the truth. I don't why would the boomers help us? Why would they help our generation?
Could I offer a devil's advocate, or maybe a
Yeah, let me hear.
substituted word?
Yeah.
I would say maybe not the boomers are a lost cause. I think it's the wealthy that are a lost cause for that exact reason you just gave.
Yeah, most of the boomers are
Yeah.
very wealthy.
Absolutely, for the most part, about 60% are over $100,000 worth of net worth. But even that isn't an insane amount of
Yeah.
net worth,
I mean,
and most of it's in real estate.
There's more homeowners over 70 than there is under 35. So
That's been a stat that's rung true for decades.
okay.
That's been a stat. Boomers,
Yeah.
I mean, they've had more time to live. That makes sense
Yeah.
that they have more wealth. That makes sense they have more assets.
They grew up just in a better society, to be honest
Yes,
with you.
yes. 1993 to 1995 was the most affordable 3 years in American history. And then 2010 up to 2022 was the cheapest debt you could accumulate in American history. So you arrived late to the party, friend. So,
Yep.
and that's where a lot of the wealthy do not want to view this world as some big monopoly game that they've benefited from. I'll put my dad out there, because if you were to say, hey, all the politicians are just playing a game with us, this is all corrupt, and by the way, we're blackmailed by another country, this capitalistic system is only here to feed billionaires, they're gonna hit you with, well, I was able to do it. They're gonna hit you with, well, I was able to do the thing.
It's exactly what they'll say.
Yeah, I was able to do it. And if they had to face those facts, they have to simultaneously split their identity off. They have to simultaneously cut off a piece of themselves. And this is why a lot of MAGA supporters will support anything Trump does. Like you said, you had voted for him and now you're dissatisfied. But there's a lot of people who, regardless of what he does, they're going to be like, yeah, he's the God. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And it's because it's part of their identity.
Mhm.
And I think the identity of maybe not being a boomer, but what do you think about substituting in just the word wealthy? Because they don't have any reason to worry.
Yeah, but I think demonizing wealthy people, I personally think it's a bad mindset.
Well, I don't
would
want to
say most-
demonize
yeah.
them. I don't demonize them. I think having wealth is the best thing that you can possibly have in this world. And wealth isn't just financial.
I think it's just because they have a comfortable life, and why would they change the things that have worked for them? Why would they try something new? Because, I mean, the system, it did kind of work. Like, it was okay supporting Israel because things were kind of working for them. But now that things aren't working, that's why Gen Z is dissatisfied with our relationship with Israel. So I think the boomers have zero incentive. The wealthy boomers have no incentive to help us because they're so comfortable. They have, all their connections and stuff like that. Why would they? Why would they help us? I mean, we have to think from their perspective. Why would they want to help us?
Yes. And why would they think that something so evil is going, like, they would have to admit that they've profited off of an evil system that's been
I
operating.
think this is how a lot of boomers see the world. They see it almost like in Star Wars. America, good guys, won World War II. Then the bad guys, Russia, the Soviet Union was there, and then they defeated the bad guys. And then now there's other bad guys in the Middle East. You know what I mean? They almost see the world like Star Wars.
I'm
That's
so
how I like
happy
to
you
say
brought
it.
up Star Wars. Have you heard George Lucas talk about Star Wars?
I've not.
The Star Wars battle, America is Darth Vader.
Really?
We're not the good guys, and that movie was literally his analogy.
Really? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, of we're not the good guys here. We're the globalists. We want everyone to do our thing.
Yeah, I think globalism is evil too. I think,
Yeah,
I mean, it's like everyone shouldn't be the same culture. I think it is great that there is different cultures, but that doesn't mean, like everyone should believe the same thing. Does that kind of make sense? I think
makes complete
globalism is
sense.
terrible.
it makes complete sense. But Jeb, we're not in a world where doesn't seem like the momentum is going that direction. It definitely
it
seems like
doesn't.
the momentum is headed toward we need to think the same, we need to eat the same,
Do you
we need
think-
to believe the same.
You think that we'll have like hate speech and freedom of speech regulations here in the US like they have in Europe at some point?
We're already building on them. Yeah.
Yeah. But
we're already
do you-
building on them.
Yeah. I think that we'll also see a civil wars in Europe pretty soon if things don't change over there.
We did have somebody on from the UK the other day.
Mhm.
Talked about the differences about making money, and it's really interesting over there. I don't know if you know that they like demonize entrepreneurship.
Really?
Yeah, it's not like here for sure.
It's not encouraged? Really? I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, he said for sure not encouraged. He said, you're making money online, do it alone in your home from your computer, like type thing.
Really?
Which I found odd. Yeah, but he talked about the same thing. He talked about the affordability crisis. He talked about the billionaire control. He talked about the political corruption. It really just seemed like they were 2 or 3 years ahead of where we were.
Yeah.
Which kind of, to what you said, you
Yeah.
think the European Union has a better chance at having that moment, that spark that finally turns into a flame and that civil war breakout before us?
If Europe just has the balls to do it, to be honest, I think a lot of great European men died in World War II. I think the best and brightest died. I think that's kind of where Europe's become pacifist, really not making as much stuff as the U.S. The U.S. used to make stuff too. We don't really make that anymore. We sold off all our manufacturing for cheap labor, cheap stuff. But
NAFTA, baby.
I hope Europe kind of has the balls to do it, but I just really don't know if they do. I mean, they have declining birth rates. I just really think they're really pacifist, to be honest with you.
Well, let's play a fun little game. All right, Jeff.
Okay.
So let's say it happened.
Okay.
Let's say it happened. Like,
England's civil war, Germany's in civil war.
I'm gonna go out and say it happened here in America. All
Okay.
right?
Wow.
I'm gonna say Miss Rachel put out a video. She's like, I'm done with this shit. We're taking over, and everybody gets together. We raid whatever. We light up whatever. 10 million people in DC. It's done. Like we're creating a new regime. It's Nepal. What happens next? Because
Well,
you're a
hopefully-
history buff.
Hopefully not the Samson option.
Hopefully not the Samson option.
Hopefully
For
not
those
the
that
Samson
don't know
option.
what that is, I hope that doesn't exist. I hope that's not a real thing.
I hope that is a conspiracy theory.
I hope that's a conspiracy theory. Can you explain that conspiracy theory for those that don't understand our fear of that one?
Yeah. So the Samson option, it's based off this guy named Samson, and I don't know the exact story, but there's a bunch of guys trying to attack him, and he pretty much destroys the hotel, wherever they were fighting, and takes everyone out with him. So in this instance, Israel would take out pretty much every country on the world with their nukes, and if they think they're at the threat of being destroyed. So yeah, that's the Samson option. If they think they're going to be taken out, they're going to take out everyone else with them.
Yeah, it's supposed to be tied around like nuclear triggers and things like that if certain people were to die. And Samson, again, Bible story, that was a guy who had a crazy amount of strength, apparently from his hair. His hair got cut off. Now he wasn't strong anymore. They took him, they attached him to these pillars, and he decided to take down the pillars with him, taking him and everybody else. So that's where that name comes from. But yeah, I don't want that to be true. But
I wonder
dude,
how that would look.
yeah, what would it look like? Because I don't think a lot of people look into like when China shifted in the 40s, how long it took them to get back to a reputable, sizable economy.
Yeah.
It's taken them a long time. I don't think people look at France and see what happened after the French Revolution, or that the billionaires benefited from that heavily. The Rothschilds specifically benefited from that heavily. The Roman Empire didn't really have anything come from it afterwards. Fall of even Jerusalem, that whole area dissipates. Like when we look at revolutions, falling of empires, usually not great things on the other side.
Yeah.
So that's where I ask, like, if it happened tomorrow, like, what comes from it?
Well, I really hope, but I think this is how it's looking. I think China would be the next. I mean, it was the British Empire, and then it was the American Empire. I think China would be the next superpower. I hate to say that, but I think that's the way it's looking because at least the Chinese government works for Chinese people. But if that happened in America, I don't know. It's almost like betting against God. You don't really know what would happen. I think it would be definitely conservative, right-leaning, because the right is physically stronger, and I think honestly more intelligent and more rational, and they have all the guns. I think the left would, in a lot of liberalism, would be destroyed. But I don't know how it would look. I really don't. Maybe it would be states, like would kind of be like small little confederations. I don't think if Civil War happened, the U.S. would never return to being the U.S. that we know it, or know it at least like 2050, in the past, years ago.
And you think that in that case, it would be like a Republican-led effort?
I wouldn't even say Republican. I think the GOP is destroyed. The GOP to me right now is 50-50 split, or maybe even like 40-60. Half of the GOP is more like the Brylan Hollyhan, Branham Tatum, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin kind of people. That would be like your MAGA crowd, and like Trump and Vance, I guess. Trump and Vance would be like in the middle. And then like your Ben Shapiro and Brylan Hollyhan would be kind of on that MAGA crowd. And then there's also like the America First sort of crowd. And I would put myself in that America First category. So I think the GOP is on the collapse. And I think I don't know what's going to happen exactly though to it. It's almost like when the left, it's the more centrist Democrats, and now it's kind of more just loony socialist Democrats. So it's almost like that, but the Democrats are a little bit more unified.
Loons on both sides. You get loons on both
Oh
sides.
yeah, you do get loonies on both sides.
Because
I
agree. I would put out there, I think the entire MAGA side is looned at this point.
Yeah.
So,
the MAGA is not, they are very controlled. They are controlled by Zionists.
Agreed. And both sides have a lot, whether they want to believe it or not, or realize it or not, a lot of Zionist control.
Yeah.
The America First side,
they need to stop
could see the blue
hating everyone. That's the only problem. It's the only thing that's going to drag down the America First idea is hating everyone equally. Once they kind of stop hating everyone equally, and they can be like, okay, well, we need to ally with the Muslims, help them get their countries back. So maybe they can go back to their countries in Europe, for example. Or we need to stop. I mean, like, the problems aren't the Muslims. The problems aren't black people. The problem isn't, even leftist. The problem is Zionism and the completely liberal ideas that have slowly gave away something from our society for the past 70 to 80 years. That is the problems in our countries, to me, anyways.
No, I hear you. The America First one interests me a lot. Because I think that could meld into what you're talking about, a more unified effort from the blue and from the red. Because I think that 90% of people who vote blue and 90% of people that vote red largely want very similar things, whether or not they know it or not. Because I think there's definitely people on the red side that argue for items that they're uninformed on what the results would be. A lot, I'm in housing. I get a lot on the immigration and housing side on what it would actually bring. I think most people just want life to be affordable.
Yeah.
I think most people want us to be in community and not so separated in our own echo chambers. I think we need term limits and responsibilities and authenticity amongst our lawmakers, people over profits. I think we can all agree we just don't want to be sending money overseas consistently and constantly.
Yeah.
I think that's where we meet in the middle. It's just a matter of, does that group get big enough, large enough, and loud enough that it creates some type of systemic change? And where I think it could adapt in a little bit from the blue side is I think we do need a little bit of that socialism aspect in certain terms, because we view socialism in this light of everything's communist, everything's Russia, China. It's like people being able to eat and have shelter shouldn't be viewed as evil.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
we can't financially support
I
every
completely
effort.
agree with you. I completely agree with you. We should help people out, but we can't help out other people at the cost of our own communities and the people that have lived here. And that's the way that I see it.
True, and that's where we're getting into the people who maybe shouldn't be here or weren't born here, came here illegally, crime. Sure.
Yeah.
The side though,
I think the H-1B1 visas are terrible. I think we should have no H-1B1 visa people.
Oh, dude, that one's atrocious.
If
we just got rid of that one, that's
Yeah.
where the high level jobs are being ripped away.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's where
And
the jobs where people actually go to college and they encourage these STEM programs. Like even for me, for example, it was always talked about college and STEM program and all that crap. And like if I did that, I mean science, technology, math, something like that, my job could probably just be given away to an H-1B1 visa. You know what I
yep.
mean?
And if you walk into all these other jobs, it could be ripped apart by AI and automation. Yeah. The
I think
younger
AI is
generations have
terrible.
been sold a dream of college equals good career that is not
Yeah.
coming to fruition. Hasn't been coming to fruition for a while. The big issue too isn't just the money going overseas. It's also the money that gets to get absolutely stockpiled and pilfered by these corporations and billionaires and private equity that get to rip into companies and rip away normal workers in exchange for cruddy automation. And I think that there's a meeting in the middle of, yes, we don't need money going overseas. Yes, we don't need money flooding into the mouths and people that don't deserve it or don't need it. I worry about, like, for example, we talk about things like welfare or food stamps. There's always going to be the argument of how many people are actually deserving
Yeah.
of that.
Well,
How many people should actually get it? But I always worry about, even if the number's something nuts, like it's not, but like what if it was 50% are fraudulent?
yeah.
What if half are fraudulent? There's another half that need it. And I struggle with that being ripped away. And all while
Yeah.
there's a corporation that's benefiting obnoxiously off of the general public. And if we just shifted that money there, we don't have to cut the corners away from somebody who deserves it, I guess. But maybe I'm thinking a bit too altruistic.
No, I agree. I do always have the mindset though, whatever you subsidize, you create more of. So that's kind of how I see welfare. I mean, if we look at LBJ's war on poverty, I mean, poverty is just it's stagnated since then. So,
And
that's kinda how I see
LBJ
it.
is another one. That's the guns and butter economy, where we tried to help people while funding war.
Yep.
And if
Yep.
we just didn't do the other part, we might be able to fund more on the social side. But again, this also comes down to an us issue. We're the ones that are funding Amazon. We're the ones that are funding these big corporations and not the local ones. We're the one funding the big food spots and not the small food spots. Like we're the ones helping that along. A lot does come down to where we shift our consumer spend.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So let's round this out, brother. This has been a great conversation.
It has. I've really enjoyed this.
I want to put you in another scenario. You get the opportunity to go to another TPUSA event, and you get to ask another question. What would be the next question you would ask?
What would be the next question I would ask? Man, it would have to depend who it was. Who are you thinking in mind? Like, who would it be?
Let's say Trump's son is up there.
Okay. I would ask
Eric
him.
Trump.
Yeah, Eric Trump. I would ask him. I would tell him. I would say like, well, it seemed like Trump has became the same thing he once sought to destroy, and that being the swamp, the deep state, the foreign interest, the multinational corporations, the globalists. Why has Trump not done anything to stop these people? Why, matter of fact, is he more conceding them and becoming more and more like them every day? That's probably what I'd ask. If it was Eric Trump.
Jeb, again, is there a message or last sentiment you'd like to give to anybody listening? Because again, for the younger generation, understanding this is one thing, learning this, figuring this out, kind of like what's the word? Like having your eyes opened to what's happening is one thing, but that's like, what do you do about it? So, Jeb, what do you say to that person, and what do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years?
I like to tell people to look at stuff from a rational and intellectual perspective, and to always scale up on the issue. Well, don't look at the reciprocal issue. Look at why this issue is happening in the first place. Go to the root cause of the issue. And then what I'd like to see, what I'd like to see in the 5 years, or what I think is going to happen.
Let's get both. What do you think, and then what do you hope?
What do I think is going to happen? I think a Democrat's going to win in 28. And I think things are going to be really hard, and it's going to be really rough. What I'd like to see happen, though, I wish, and I also think the GOP is going to kind of dissolve, and it's going to hopefully turn into something new. What I'd like to see happen, I'd like to see the left and the right come together. I'd like to see Christians and Muslims come together, black and white, fighting with each other, because a lot of you have a lot more in common than you think. But there is a difference in the cultures, but you can respect other cultures and love your own culture without hating someone else's culture, and I think that's important, and people need to realize that. And just overall, look at the real issues and always scale up.
Look at the real issues and always scale up. What do you mean by that?
Scale up. Okay, like, for example, Republicans, like I was on a podcast the other day, and they were like talking about gay marriage and abortion for like a good 30 minutes, and I was bored out of my mind because I'm like, these are so like 2015 Ben Shapiro issues, like Ladder of Crowder or something they would talk about. And I was like, okay, well, you guys are talking about all this stuff. Why have they look at stuff in society, which I don't care if someone's gay, honestly. Look at stuff in society that is pushed for people, to wanna, be gay or be transgender or want abortions, because that wasn't an issue 100 years ago. Look at stuff like that. Look at issues on why are we in the Middle East? Why is there radical terrorism? What has happened that has created this idea that Muslims are the issue? Does that kind of make sense?
So you mean more
always
scaling up our thought process around
Scale up our thought
these
process.
issues.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Why do we have 150 plus bases worldwide?
Yeah.
Why are we funding all these out? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, what I'd like to see in the next 5 years, hopefully the left and the right come together, and we almost have like a uniparty, but for Americans, and I hope all the West wakes up, because Western society and Western civilization is something worth fighting for. That's what I hope happens. And we defeat globalism.
Defeating globalism. Yeah.
Defeat globalism.
I think that we'll have to see. The main pushback I'd give you is I think JD wins next one.
Really?
I don't know. That Palantir money's already been spent.
Yeah.
So it's tough for me to think that he's just there to be the vice president at some point and then dip off. I don't know. But it would be really cool too, and I know it won't happen. What if we got a split card? What about a Vance AOC? What about a Massey AOC? What about mixing it up? I don't know. Why can't we get blue and red in the same room and force them to have discussions around these topics? I don't know.
Yeah. I
don't even know if I like my own idea there.
That could happen.
Why hasn't it happened?
I don't know how that would look, to be honest with you. I think it would be just a very inefficient government.
Okay.
I think we have a very inefficient government today.
Agreed, because we already have blue and red mixed into every other branch of government. It's really only
so
the executive branch.
Nothing gets done.
Yeah, it's only the executive branch that's forced to be one color or another. So, why not let that bleed into other colors? Or, like you said, would that just cause more dysfunction and less getting done? I don't know. I'm not in charge. Jeb, neither are you, but I think that you have a fantastic mindset of looking into what and why things are. You're one of the few people who's taken it off of social media into real life and brought these questions to people that are actively in charge of pushing these mindsets around globalization, these mindsets around Judeo-Christian values and others. And I think it's extremely important when we continue to scale up our thinking, like you said, question what's going on, not having this mindset of just allowing everything to be what it is, just taking everything for granted. Actually asking questions, I think, is one of the best parts of your generation and others. So, Jeb, continue doing what you're doing, brother. Thank you for coming on, and blessings to you. Yeah, dude, I'll continue to follow along for the next time that you get to grill somebody on stage.
Thank you.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
Yes, sir. You too.
Great conversation wrapped up with Jeb. We got to touch on 9/11. We got to touch on the Rothschild family, the Balfour Declaration. But I want to know what you think, honestly, because we went back and forth quite a few times. Comment what you think about Jeb and his takes. We'll read it on our next podcast, because everything around our country right now is weird. Me and Sean talked about this earlier. From the minute happenings of a cabinet meeting to where we're actually throwing our money to support different war efforts, it all just seems weird. So from today's podcast, what was the most weird thing that we touched on that still just sits in your brain? Is it how October 7th was handled? Was it 9/11 and the passports? Is it something completely different, like the petrodollar and the Yom Kippur War? What is that weird item for you that got touched on today? And as always, we'll be having conversations like these every Friday. So subscribe and like if you want more of it, support the show, and we'll see you next week on The Zach Val Show.